this. See if I can even shot this thing. Like I've been neglecting it this summer, putting it off till now. I gotta clean this thing out. So I figure I'd come live here, hang out with y'all a little bit, while I am working on getting the shed cleaned out here. Just talk a little bit, talk about the season that we've had. The main reason for that is, we've got over here is my greenhouse. My garden is just back there. You can't really see because of the sun. We'll be over there in a little bit. Kind of talk about how things went in the garden out in the area this year. It's into August, so that means we are at a spot where the garden is transitioning. Most of what's been produced is going to be produced. It'll just be the last few stragglers. Larger tomatoes greening up, things like that. And that means it's time for me to get in here and start cleaning up a little bit because I do have need to get this winterized, but also start planning my space for into fall and everything. Yeah, for those that don't know, my name's Ryan Howe. I am a business coach by trade, but I do work here in the garden pretty consistently, throughout the year actually with my greenhouse and to produce goodness for the family, but also to give out to my community as well. We had a ton of stuff given out this year at the veggie stand. A ridiculous amount of stuff was given out this year. I am somewhere north of, I'm over 20 bushels that has gone out between cucumbers and tomatoes and beans and everything. So that's pretty cool. We're pretty happy about that. That's something like we want to make sure we highlight and understand that, hey, this was a W for us this year. And we want to make sure that we're going to repeat going into next year as well. Just plan it a little bit better so I can have more of the, what's that going to be for winter? Going into winter, into spring to make sure that I can, have more beets and spring stuff, which we're going to talk about here. As we're going along today. Kind of what that was like. But this is something I've just been putting off. I'm no different than anyone else. I have my, hey, I'll get to it when it's time, and it is time now to work on these things, which is good. So I tell you one thing I'm excited about though. I ordered a new nozzle from Amazon for this thing. I can't wait. They got a little kit for $9, so I can finally get rid of this stupid, this little button you got to push down. Gas goes everywhere, just a pain. In order to keep us safe, it doesn't work for crap. You know what I mean? So we got that. So yeah, again, the goal here today is really just kind of chatting, kind of just catching up with folks, seeing how everyone's doing, and then trying to organize where I can. A lot of this stuff, like for instance up here, is going to start making its way over the next couple months into the greenhouse. We'll take a look at what some of that stuff is too. It's all my insulation that I have underneath my pots and everything. Is what's up in here. My lights, those all come out during the summer. So cooking up some meth. No meth today. Not on Saturday. Saturday's not meth cooking day. So this is starting my fires in my fire pit. A lot easier when you got this plus a little gas and trying to figure out anything else. So that's what that's for. But yeah, no, it's been good though. Good. It's been a good summer. I can say that much. We have had the weather it's been really dry here, but there's been a lot of sun, so I've been able to augment and a lot of watering for my garden. We had ridiculous amounts of production. I was so much production. I had. What's the numbers? I'm trying to think. We talked about the bushels already. It was over 20 bushels worth of cucumbers and tomatoes that went out. But I had north of, I'm going to start down here and then take the bottom and work away. Anyways. So we had north of 20 bushels, but I had 40, I'm trying to think here, 40 cucumber plants, 60 tomato plants, and we just produced a ton. Yeah, so I don't know about not too much good stuff in here. At the end of the day, this is just where I store my stuff. So we had that. So it's been really good. We were able to produce a lot and give out a lot. That's the thing. In the stand, it was donation only, and with a sign, and specifically for folks to understand, we weren't charging. Like we were giving all of our we were basically giving the vegetables away. There's donations they wanted to, which a lot of people did, but however, we also had a lot of folks come through and get stuff that, and just take the vegetables that they needed, which is great. That's what it's for. I'm gonna put him in an impoverished area, and so any help that we can give out to folks, that was kind of the idea. This is burn pit here. But yeah, it's been good. It's been a lot of production on our strawberry patch, my little strawberry patch. It's been producing year round, still producing. It's on its last legs here. So yeah, when we're just looking at how things went this year, I would call it basically an A year, not A plus, but it was an A year for production. I overachieved, I can say that much, for how much came out of here, which is good. I needed that, for sure. Let's get this guy over here, just on the way for now. And again, for the area too, they needed to get some W's in this area as far as making sure that, people having access to fresh fruits and vegetables. That is, during this, and a lot of it's for the kids too in this area. So like during the school year, not as worried about the kids getting good food. We have at the school here, I'm on the school board. It's just understood here in Michigan that you got breakfast and lunch are covered. And we also send our kids home with those that are identified as, backpacks full of food. But they have access to fresh vegetables is a huge part of the menu that we have here. We're in rural Michigan, and it's actually, my neighbor, she's just down the road here, she's responsible for the, food services and everything. And that is a huge part of what she does, is making sure that the budget that she has is focused on fruits and vegetables and all the goodness for the for the young men and women, the kids that they're going to have for their food. And I love that. That's what we should be doing. Less and less refined things, more and more whole foods, vegetables, etc. So that's what we want to see. And she does a great job with that. So anyways, during the summer, that's one of the things that I want to make sure that's available here, so that we have, the kids that are around, everybody needs food, they have access to it. Because not everybody, that's the thing. It says, well, they could just go to the food bank. Not everybody is humble enough to go to the food bank if they need stuff. So that's part of the reason why, I have the stand. They can just come up and grab if they need stuff. Nobody's really going to, look at them twice, because I have folks that have their second and third homes that are around here on the lake. They just come through, they come by and grab stuff too. They pay, they drop off some money in there, they grab what they need for their, for around the house, so they get fresh stuff. So, it's a mixture of folks who need the actual food, and those folks who are just looking to grab something local, something quick. Like that. They don't necessarily, they aren't like in a food desert type spot. So that's it, and it's been working great. Like I said, we have had all sorts of folks through this year. And it's really good. We got some had some highlights and some traction that came through from the local community as well too. They went out of their way to make sure on Facebook, share it out. I went up to quite a few folks. We had people coming from, a few people from out of town said they stopped by and just donated, which was great. Now with that, part of what we're doing with what I'm doing is, I'm giving quite a bit of the money that was made, a little bit back to recoup some funds, but the rest is going to the local food bank to be able to, help folks out. So that's the idea there as well. So we've got, it's going to be a W year for, what we're trying to do here around the community. So I'm excited for that. So there's that with the garden. That's with the garden. That's kind of it. The chickens, for those that have been watching on the channel for a while, are all doing well. They're all producing eggs now. My 6 chickens, I'm getting around 10 eggs every 2 days. Like that's kind of what it averages out to. So that is not a small amount of eggs, for just me and the redhead. So that's great. We love that. So that is a good thing. Here. So, and they're doing really good. The chickens have really kind of settled in. So I'll take a chicken wing. Matter of fact, so I actually gave the girls just to keep them humble, I gave them a rotisserie chicken the other day. So they've been munching on that. And they tore that up, but obviously got to keep them humble. So they did actually really enjoy that a lot. So this is great. Actually, they're on their second one now. I had a little bit scraps left over of another one from the other day, so they got the double up on chickens, on their rotisserie chicken, so good for them. What do I think? This guy. Very good. Got my grinder with me. I've got to do some fence adjustments per se. This is drill, so now we're just getting into the tool side here. So hopefully everybody's got some, got some good plans for the weekend, or we're on at least here in the U.S. we are on our last. We're on our last bit here with the for the summer, so I know that's always a tough one for folks who are settling in for the year. Hey, what are we going to do for the rest of the time? We got packing a little bit more fun before summer's done with, which is what we're seeing at the coffee shop. We're seeing folks that are kind of piling in there right now to take advantage of that. But last Saturday before the kids got to go back to school, and how can they enjoy their time? So we're seeing that. So that's happened. I've got all my building materials here. That's good. What else is in here? Gotta love it when I've got camera equipment just showing up. That's too funny. Huh. This one's busted. Just some trash. Alright, so this is good. Like I said, there isn't, this is just maybe like an hour's worth of work in here, and then I got to go and fix over on the fence too, so I can make adjustments to my, I've got to be able to, so where my greenhouse is at, it is up one side, the south side is up against my fence for my garden, so I can't get in and replace the, I'm trying to think here, the glass panels or the polycarbonate panels, so I've got to go, and I'm actually going to be cutting my fence down today, portions of it, so that I can, do those repairs instead of just kind of what I've been doing, which is duct tape on there because I can't get them in. That's not what we want. We want to have decently done, well done. We want it to look good on the property. We're not trying to have it be look like crap. That's not what we want. All right, so slowly making our way through here. Yeah, it's almost this time too, folks. Man, I'm looking forward to this when I got to make this transition. It's a matter of time here, matter of moments before I'm gonna have to put those out. Probably in November, December time frame. Have to get those out. So it's gonna be cold here. They're calling for a pretty wet. Right there. Hey, they're calling for a pretty wet and cold winter for us here. In the winter, that's a good question. So I grow lettuce and spinach, things like that, greens that they don't necessarily need a lot of sun. They and they can handle the cold. Like I do have a heater in there. It's up here. It's one of the things we're going to be kind of pulling out and getting squared away. But I do have a heater that I use in there to keep things above freezing. During the day it's 60 in there, and then at night, obviously when it's dropping down, but the heater keeps it right around 38 degrees in the greenhouse. And that allows the lettuce to kind of do its thing. That's the goal there is want to just have some fresh greens growing. Keeps me in there. But then also in the winter, starting in February, January, February, I'm starting my spring plants. We're already into that stuff. So the heater I have, it's an electric heater. Should be up here. Where are you at, buddy? Here it is. Oh, this is part of the reason that we're cleaning out here today, so I can get into. Sorry for the noise, folks. Come on, you. Get my stuff out of here. Thank you. Oh. This guy right here. Like I said, this is why we're cleaning up. It isn't exactly very well organized here. So what I have is a two-part system I got from Amazon. Just an electric heater, works really well. I don't know if it's backwards there, but that's what it is. And it's got two phases, but it comes with, it was 39 bucks, but I ordered it and it comes with a thermostat. So I set this thing to like 40. So it kicks on at 40, you know, helps keep it right around that temperature. So that's what we're looking for with that. So that runs either from my, like here, I'll show you. You can see I've got solar panels on here, which charges up. I've got a battery, and then I use that to kind of, for the little bit that it does need it, it runs the heater in my, I've got batteries it goes to, and it runs and keeps my greenhouse warm-ish, you know, not like super hot, just enough. So, but yeah, it works out really well. It's yeah, one of those little hobbies that I'm glad that I picked up, but it also allows me here, the goal for next year, as we're going into this, I kind of came to that determination because so many people showed interest, and then eventually had people take advantage, was setting this up in a way that my I'll be able to produce flowers for people, like starter flowers, you know, petunias, all those different things, marigolds, etc. But also plant starters too. There's a lot of people who, once they realized that, hey, they could ask me, and I had no problem sharing tomato plants and other cucumber things like that. So I'll probably have a group of those out as well once I have my stuff covered, that they can then take and use for you know, they can come, you know, donations. They can come and pick it up if they need it. If they want to leave a donation, great. If not, no worries. Not a big deal. These things go up here for now. This two here. This is greenhouse. This is greenhouse. So a big part of this, you know, I'm just kind of getting organized what needs to go where. Because this was kind of just a dumping ground for stuff as I needed it. You know, this, I have the machete for, you know, taking care of stuff, so. Oh gosh, as far as, man, you know, so Joe, if you go and look, there's a lot to that. If you want to go to, I have a video on basically installing this thing. It's like 3.5 hours to do it. It's the TLDR of it is, that's a 200 watt system. I've got a 2500 watt inverter, and I have a ton of lithium batteries, that, again, I don't know what the total number is here, but it's a group of them that are connected. So they're able to output and take care of going into, I'd say around into late December, they can handle it. Once I get into late December, I have to switch over to the grid in order to power it, because I'm well below, you know, the amount of time that we're above freezing, it'll burn through the entire battery. So it buys me basically all but maybe 2 months worth of time that I can just run power from my, off of my solar, my battery system. So that's the idea. It's not a, you know, 100% replacement. If I wanted to, I can add in, if I wanted to be able to run full time, I'd probably have to add, like, especially let's say late December, January, February, I'd probably need 3 more batteries at $100 a pop. So it'd be another $300. So so the thing with the windmill is that they work here, but there's a height restriction in my village of where you can put stuff, and I'm surrounded on 3 sides by properties with trees, and the one area that they come through, in order to get above what's growing, you know, I'd have to be above the restriction for the property, you know, for the height restriction. So yeah, I did look into wind, but it's not, you know, I have solar panels on my house too. I have a full set that I paid for, and you know, they're doing their job. I can say that definitively. I had my, trying to think here, what was my number? So July and August, my electric bill with running my air conditioning pretty much the entire time, each of those was around $32. Like, that's 32 and 34, I think is what my numbers were. So July and August, when we're in the 80s to 90s every day, hot. So the solar panels, you know, when you use them, you know, I use them, they're doing their job where I need them to do their job. They're definitely they got the repayment period on those. It was gonna be 9 years, just kind of like what they said. It might be a little bit sooner because they keep raising the rates, which is good for me. That means my payback, or my payout, the utility pays me, that goes up as well too. So, it does help me pay it back a little bit quicker. And I paid cash for my system, so I didn't not paying interest and other stuff too, which is one of the reasons why solar isn't necessarily at this time, isn't worth it. As weird as that is for me to say, it isn't really worth it at this point for people to get, for those reasons. So, I'll organize this a little bit. All of this styrofoam is so important. It makes just all the difference in the world when you're doing your fall, winter growing. And it has to do with the heating pads and everything, so. Yeah, and it's not 100%, and I don't do, by the way, my solar panels are not because I'm trying to go green and trying to do any of those things. It does, it's helpful, it is 100%. I'm just making a long-term play that electricity prices are not gonna go down. If anything, electricity prices are gonna go up. So I wanna be able to generate electricity on my property to cut my costs down. Like that's the whole thing, Like I say, I don't have an electric vehicle. I don't think I'd ever get one, at least not in this area, just because of the temperature swings and whatnot. And frankly, I just don't need it. But yeah, no, I'm with you there. I've spent time, obviously researching all that things, but it's 100% simply just to save me some money. And it's doing its job very well. I have a south-facing home with no trees in front of it that is plastered with those with solar panels. So it is just sitting there producing for me, just like I need it to. These guys are doing here. All my heating pads here. This is my brooding, chicken brooding equipment we got my kids. They're my kids. Good Lord, we got the chicks. They were living in here last year, so that's good. It's fine up there. This thing's good. Two up here. Okay, we are inching closer and closer to actually being able to do something here, which is, kind of always the plan. Fish line, take measures and a tool. And this guy here. Yeah. Oh, and then like I was saying, I tell you one thing, I got this with my kit this last year. This is probably like one of my favorite little tools I got in the greenhouse. So this little scoop on the end, if you guys can see that or not, it came with my stuff. It actually pops stuff out of, actually I have one here. It's designed to make it easier to get these guys out of there. And it works great, it really does. So it was like one of those little surprises that showed up and quickly became like one of my favorite tools. I didn't realize how much I liked it. Can I get one more of that? And this year is going to be a refresh year for a lot of my greenhouse stuff too. I can tell you that much. We have I have all sorts of stuff that it's on its third year, so it's definitely time for it to be getting replaced. Wow. One foil came handy a little bit. And again, a lot of stuff that I have here is simply just designed to help me when I'm doing my changeover to the greenhouse. That inverter. Cool. Alright, it's just it's trash. Very good. Alright, so here's this piece. This one is ready to go. I can put you over there. It's good to see. So next up, just move all these things up. Now this is all the stuff for my greenhouse as well. Make sure things are square there. Okay, yeah, let me get this stuff up and then we'll go take a look at the greenhouse real quick. It is in its transition mode right now. It's in summer mode. But I'll be able to talk you through what's what's going to be going on with that. All right, let's get this last one up here. All right, so let's go take a look at the greenhouse real quick. And so just give you kind of a quick overview of it here. I got a video if you go check on my channel about building this, but also then getting the insulation on this last year. So I've got insulated on 3 sides. And so this is, kind of what we did here. I've got 3 raised beds, another video on that, where we've got some tomatoes in here, and you can see they're coming along pretty well. There's, we're in our last couple bits here. These guys are on their way out the door. One thing that I did discover on I've got calcium deficiency, so that's good to know. Toss those out there. But these are Campari, I think is how they're pronounced, tomatoes. I got these from the store. I actually got the seeds out and went ahead and harvested them and did that for this year. So these are all sorts of goodness. They're in the compost. Okay, same thing. These, I got my marigolds going, and these will be, we're going to deadhead these here in about a month or so. Harvest the seeds here, and these will be used for the rest of my marigolds that I put here. And then my mom, she also gets a bunch too. As you can see, they are done basically. My cucumbers, they're on their way out the door here. And between these 2 rows of them here, it's been just bushel after bushel after bushel of them. So, real quick. All right. So here's the greenhouse as we come in here. A couple things as we are moving this way. Oh, there we go. That piece came out. So I've got fans in here that are helping that turn on. They're running solar panels. So when it gets to a certain temperature, these things will kick on and move stuff in and out. Again, like I said, it's been in summer mode, which is basically just storage. I don't really do growing anything here just because of how hot it gets. And these are open most of the time. So part of what I got to do is I got to replace these sections here. And to do that, I've got to cut into my fence, which is fine. So yeah, anyways, it's 6 by 6 by 16 greenhouse. It's about 7 foot tall. But it's 6 by 6 by 16 is what it said. And I'll have this whole section here. And I got this from Wayfair. This is where I got this overall piece. It's got I put cement in the footings and everything, and I put down this top floor in here to help retain heat and everything. But it stays open throughout the summer. As you can see, I just kind of let stuff, I'm not too worried about what's growing in here, and it's just where I do some work. But we're going to work on clearing all this out here over the next, I don't know if it'll be today. I may be doing some of it, but I'm really just going to be on the other side here. Going to be cutting into my fence here, so that way I can get in and replace these panels. So, again, this is my garden over here. See, I got a few sunflowers doing their things. Got here roost for my chickens doing their stuff, and then I've got corn and tomatoes and all the other goodies. You can see all of my black-eyed Susans there. So, along those same lines, on the other side of the shed here is all my compost and everything's there, and then got my strawberries. So, it's just a good little setup, nothing too crazy, just enough to produce what I need, and also be able to help the neighbors out where they need their stuff. So, as I said, that's the overarching plan when I'm doing anything, is how can I help my neighbors in the community in some way, shape, or form with whatever I'm putting out here on the property. Because I'm right in town, but there's a lot of, there's definitely a food desert. A lot of folks do not have access to clean food. Vegetables and stuff like that. So we just want to make sure that they're good. So, oh yeah, so we don't really worry about the whole aquaculture in my area. I'm here in Michigan, so we have do some stuff like that. It's very limited though, and it's like shrimp is the main thing. If anyone's looking to do any aquaculture, that's where they tend to spend their time around here. But yeah, you're not the first person to mention something like that. It's just not something that is done here. You know, because we have, you know, for us where we're at, we have the lake for our fish, but then there's shipping and everything else that doesn't necessarily, the math doesn't math for a lot of folks. So that's one of the things. Yeah, you're not wrong to think that way, and I love that we got folks that are trying to figure out those opportunities, because that's cool. That's what we need to be doing. More thinking like that, more innovation. And like I said, there may be a way to do it that somebody hasn't thought of here. I'm just not that guy. You know, I've got multiple businesses, and that already keep me busy. So not necessarily look like adding other stuff. So, alright. So there's that. Let me sweep this out. That's the next one. This is sweeping. And then we are go to the other side. And most of this is just gonna make its way out. And again, this is a semi-annual rite of passage. Sweeping this place out. I don't do it, you know, too often for reasons. But you do gotta take care of your stuff, right? You gotta take care of your stuff. I didn't necessarily, you know, have family members that always took care of their stuff, so we don't want that to be the thing. It's one of the things that I've learned. Take care of your property and your equipment and stuff. Doesn't mean you hoard things, because I ain't trying to do that either. But we do want to at least keep it somewhat clean. Alright, now this stuff is going to be over to here. That. Oh, hey, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just, you know, end of the day, one of the things I just, my grandpa mentioned to me when I was younger was, you know, the most important thing is learning when you have enough, like what's enough to you. Just kind of be able to either articulate that or feel what that means. So that way you know when you're like, okay, I've got enough. Then once you have enough, you know, that you can manage and maintain, and kind of just give up on stuff. Now that you have enough, what are you going to do with your time? Because if you're constantly just chasing paycheck or constantly chasing money, what's enough money, right? You got to be able to articulate that so you know, okay, I've gotten where I wanted to get to on this. So now, what do I want to do with my time? Time, energy, and resources, and how can you know, it's supposed to be get back to family, community, things like that. That's the idea. Once I got to the point, my wife and I got to the point where we were debt free, and now we have our little bit of debt because we have our house and whatnot, and our businesses. Yeah, but that's covered. What do we do? What should we be doing with our time? What should we be doing with the community? And that's what we're doing. Okay, so this guy is done for the year. Actually, it's got one more run, but I can have one more run I have to do. Still got to get my winter treatment for my grass. So there's that. More trash. The rest of this stuff looks like it needs to be swept out. Leaves and grass. Push this over here. And then my toolkit I can put back up. These are eventually going to have to go in the garage, but for now, they can go hang out over there. So that'll be alright. Okay, so let's sweep this part here out. Actually, I want to check something real quick. Do I have my desk right now? I do. Got my deck brush. It's a lot easier to maneuver this thing around. It's in my greenhouse. Didn't even think about that. That's where it would be at. So, you know, a big part of this is just, you know, especially too, it's finally cooled off a little bit here, so I could be out here and not be, you know, sweating up, you know, sweating a ton. I can take care of this stuff without necessarily ruining everything. Yeah, I was going through like 3 or 4 shirts, depending on the day during the summer, just because of how bad things were in the house. Much I was sweating and had to get stuff done. There ain't nobody trying to do that. You know, so a lot of this stuff's got to make it back into the garage, which is fine. Or it should be. Here, like I said, it's almost that time where I got to be covering up the faucets, getting ready for winter. Got a couple months, but doesn't mean that it isn't on my mind. Yes, we still got a full, you know, fall is like a prime like grass growing season. So I've got all the grass and everything that's still, you know, got to be watering too, because we're still in a drought here in Michigan, at least in my area. So that is still a problem we're working through. So we can't completely shut down operations with the hose, but I am pretty darn close to being at that point. Oh, all right. You know, a lot of folks, you know, I've been asked before about why I do some of these videos are like this, where I just come on and I'm all doing this like day of the life of stuff, right? Where I'm just minding my own, where I'm just doing, you know, cleaning up. And a big part of that is I just think people don't really think. People get the wrong idea about what it is to actually, you know, how much work it actually does take to take care of a property in the right way. That's a big part of why I do this stuff. So, all right. Well, that gets me to the point where I'm at today. So, I think we're good. It's been good talking with everybody. Take care. We'll see you guys next time.